What's going on, everyone? I'm Max Ralph.
Seth Engle.
1-0 podcast today. I think both of us are still reeling a little bit from yesterday. It's like the biggest news day in sports that's happened in God knows how long. But obviously, the big news was USC, UCLA are on their way to the Big Ten in 2024. Before we even talk about like why or where it's going, I'm just curious, like, what was your initial reaction, Seth?
Well, initially, I think I shared the same emotion as everyone, which was just like, what? It was like, what's
Yeah.
going on now? Yeah, like
Yeah.
what's happening here? Because we didn't get like really any hints there. Uh,
Hmm.
so I was kind of shocked. And then right away, I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? I wrote a column kind of like based on impulse, which those go well sometimes. It was also challenging because I'm like, well, are they going to come out with new information in like the next 10 minutes? So I'm
Yeah.
like trying to write this thing. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I think we were all just all over the place. It's actually really fun though.
Yeah.
Looking back on it now, it's kind of like a hangover. I almost feel
Yeah.
like a stand-up comedian. I'm walking on stage and like, so yesterday happened. That's like my
Yeah.
opening act.
Yeah.
Um, in the sports journalism world, I don't know if it really comes close to what we got yesterday, just across the board.
Oh,
You share that same type of
yeah.
shocked
Yeah.
feeling?
Yeah. I mean, well, I think the shocked feeling, I talked about it with a couple of people. It's just like this one was a lot more shocking than the SEC moves with Oklahoma and Texas, because that was rumored for at least like a week or two before it actually happened.
Mhm.
Um, and then yesterday it was just like UCLA and USC are moving to the Big Ten. Decision expected tonight, and it's like, whoa, like where did that come from? My initial reaction was why, just why. I mean, obviously, when I thought about it, it makes sense, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But just like UCLA and USC at their core are just not Big Ten schools. Like they're just not. Location, like I mean, you could even just purely go off of a vibe. Like they're just not Big Ten schools.
Yeah.
It's just interesting, but yeah, my initial reaction was just why, and like you said, like I said, I'm still reeling from what happened yesterday. So well, let's talk a little bit about why. And I think for me, like we talked about it already with the whiteout, but like it's money. It is like that's the bottom line. What it is. I mean, partially it's in retaliation to Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC, but it's money. I mean, the saying is money is the root of all evil. Well, I mean, you can also just say money is the root of everything that's going to happen in college athletics for the next forever. We talked about it a little bit, but it's about media rights. It's about it's money, because the Big Ten and the SEC are the two highest grossing conferences, and if they can get their hands on bigger programs and more programs, they're going to bring in more money. I mean, I think that's pretty simple, and that's why it makes sense, even if these two schools aren't Big Ten programs.
Yeah, exactly. So I think to understand quite how much money we're talking here, it's important to understand the timeline of maybe how these things unfolded.
Yeah.
Um, at the beginning of May, Kevin Warren said he expected to have a new media rights agreement in place
Hmm.
by Memorial Day.
Yeah.
That deal was up to $1 billion. We didn't get that media rights deal.
Hmm.
So we waited for over a month, and now we're starting to understand why that
Yep.
was.
Hmm.
We may not have known about the whole USC UCLA thing for a while. Probably been in the works for around a month.
Yeah.
And then it all just, I mean, it was just still a short period of time to really like get that thing
Oh,
through.
absolutely. Yeah.
So then what happened? It really was USC and UCLA that went to the Big Ten. It wasn't
Yeah.
the other way around, which is interesting. But when USC and UCLA, two of the most historic powerhouses in college athletics, come to your conference and say, "Hey, we want to join you guys," you're not going to say no. I
You
mean,
can't say
USC
no.
is arguably the future of college football right now.
Yeah. I mean, that.
In the age of NIL, USC is
Oh, yeah.
number one.
Yeah.
So right there, I mean, I understand exactly
Yeah.
what the Big Ten is doing, and I don't think anyone's even arguing that. Like, you're not going to
Right.
turn down USC. It
No.
just can't happen.
No, and I'm not sure how Lincoln Riley feels about all this, but that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, I mean, I think this comes down to, like you said, media rights, which um, I loved in your column. Even in a down year for the Big Ten, it still outgrossed the ACC by $100 million.
Yeah.
So it's just that's the bottom line. And I think actually what we're seeing here, a lot of people have mentioned it. But this is kind of Fox's retaliation to ESPN, because ESPN has all the rights to SEC schools and everything that's happening there. SEC's number one money wise, Big Ten's number two. Who owns Big Ten Network? Fox. So now you've got Fox has their answer. That's how they're going to bring in more money, because they've got USC and UCLA in the Big Ten now. It's what it is. It's ESPN versus Fox. It's Big Ten versus SEC. It's money, money, money. But yeah, so to talk about a little bit more like where this is leading us. We talked about it on the phone a little bit yesterday, but this idea has been thrown around by a few people, but it almost looks like, in my opinion, that this is going to turn into like professional sports league looking stuff. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, as someone who looked at this and then saw the whole world falling, I'd have to agree with you on that. Uh, what I saw right off the bat was that USC and UCLA moving to the Big Ten would open up this whole new, country for the Big
Mhm.
Ten and SEC to go after.
Yeah.
These mega conferences, which you started to hear more reports of. That is very real to me. That sounds very realistic. Sounds like something that definitely could happen, because it makes a lot of sense when you take into account the things and the worries that we've heard about A, the college football playoff, and B, geographic difficulties when you incorporate UCLA and USC into the Big Ten.
Exactly.
What I believe is going to happen is we're going to start to see regions, geographical regions, to form divisions
Hmm.
in the Big Ten. And I don't know when this is going to be. The Big Ten said they needed to take, a breather after, what transpired yesterday, really just collect some things.
Sure.
If the date for USC and UCLA to join the Big Ten is August 2nd, 2024, this whole idea will have been played out by then of the regions.
Yeah. You
What
think?
that will look like, I can't tell you for sure. What I believe it will look like will be a West, a Midwest, a Great Lakes, and an East region. And in each division, we're still unsure what that number will be of how many teams will be in each division.
Hmm.
I think what makes most sense is 24. I think having 6 teams in each division is nice.
Yeah.
Depending on scheduling, they might have to go less than that. It's at 16 right now. Maybe they can fit in 20. Maybe that could work.
Yeah.
But if there's four, then maybe that wouldn't work. So they'll have to mess around with that. As for teams, the West region, Pac-12 teams.
Yeah.
People are worried. Okay, well, how is this going to impact Olympic sports for
Mhm.
UCLA and USC? Don't have to worry anymore when their whole competitive schedule
Yeah.
is in their own region.
Yeah. Exactly.
So there's that. Midwest, mostly Big Ten teams. What gets interesting, you might have to pull a team like Notre Dame.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Kansas is an interesting one
Yeah,
personally.
Kansas. So
Iowa
there's
State. Iowa State's one I thought of.
yeah, so
Um,
there are a few big ones. What's really interesting to think about is this AAU membership
mm,
that they have going, which pretty much signals that like you care about academics. And it's
yeah.
it played a part when the alliance, which is now dead, obviously, was coming
Yeah.
into fruition, was Big Ten, Pac-12, and ACC, all of the same academic values. Let's work together through this new age of college athletics. Obviously, that's done,
Hmm.
but what we could start to see is that some of these AAU teams like Kansas and Missouri start to creep their way into the Big Ten.
Yep.
Notre
Exactly.
Dame has been getting a lot of talks about joining the Big
Mhm.
Ten. They're
Yep.
not an AAU member. Maybe they'll let it slide. Maybe they don't.
Yeah.
Um, so that's something that I'd see in the Midwest. Great Lakes probably be, Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State.
Hmm.
Um, Similar look to the Big Ten East right now. And then the East, this is very far out, but maybe you pull some ACC teams. some
Yeah.
AAU teams in the ACC, Duke, UNC, Virginia,
Yeah.
basketball powerhouses that could really, fill that void that the Big Ten really hasn't had.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like it. And I mean, I think it'd be pretty sweet to have Penn State and Pittsburgh in the same division if
Oh,
somehow
and Pitt.
if somehow that worked out. But like you said, that's way in the future, and I think that is something that fans would clamor for if it ever got to that point. But I know I agree with you, and I think the regions, like I was saying yesterday, it's going to start looking like the AFC and the NFC in the NFL. This is an arms race now. The SEC brought in Oklahoma and Texas, and Big Ten said, well, we're not focused on expanding. They did the alliance. Well, it's not even been a year later, and they're expanded. So it's an arms race now. Like it's just a flat out arms race. And so what I think is going to happen is, like you said, I think it's just going to get so big that it's just everything's just going to swallow into these two conferences. And when that happens, when this arms race just keeps growing, it means that other school or other conferences aren't going to be able to survive. I mean, the Big Ten and the SEC were already the highest grossing conferences. And if they just keep poaching one or two of the biggest grossing schools from every other conference, then the other conferences can't survive. I mean, the Big 12 is in shambles right now. The ACC still looks okay, but it hasn't been the same as the Big 10 and the SEC in years. And like Pac 12, it just lost two of their highest grossing programs. Like, I think it's just going to continue until it's just the Big 10 and the SEC. Now, I'm praying that Group of Five action is left alone. I think there will be. I don't think we'll have any issues there, but there's something special about Group of Five football and everything. But yeah, I just think this is going to keep growing until it can't grow anymore, and like it's just kind of inevitable. And from a personal standpoint, like my personal feelings, I don't like it. I don't. I think it kind of takes away from I guess some of the tradition of college football having different conferences. And I mean, there's a fun aspect to everybody arguing, fans of different schools and different conferences saying like, oh, the Big Ten's like actually better than the SEC this year. Well, who knows? But you're not going to get that anymore if they're just two mega conferences. Somebody could say, oh, well, a Pac-12 school is going to get in the CFP this year because the Pac-12 is stronger than it has been. So an undefeated Pac-12 team is going to make it. Like, that stuff's going to be gone. And I think some of the like the fan pride in a certain conference and everything is just it's just going to be kind of lost in this. And it all boils down to money. Again, money's the root of all evil. Money's the root of all college athletics. I think that's where we're headed.
Yeah. So you're worried that, taking away from these conferences and being like, oh, this conference isn't as good as the other. I understand that, like kind of the pureness of college athletics as a worry. What I really like about this is that this completely opens the door for a new route in the college football playoff. That's my big thing here. Because
Yeah.
if you do make the SEC and the Big Ten into these leagues that have like 4 divisions, those divisions can play for that number one spot, similar to like in baseball or
Yeah.
football,
Yeah.
make their respected playoff in their conference, play an in-conference playoff. Whoever wins that then goes on and plays the championship against the SEC champion.
Yeah.
That's really exciting to me. And that
Yeah.
seems, I mean, that just seems way better than how things have been going for the past however many years.
Yeah. It could make things
through the
easier.
change in the championship.
Yeah. No, it definitely could make things easier, but I think that's another scenario where it's just like, well, we don't know where it's going. I mean, 24 hours ago, we didn't think that the Big Ten was going to have 16 teams in 2024, or probably more. I mean, I'm not ruling that out, but that's the thing. Like, it could, in theory, make it easier if these two leagues really do start to look like the AFC and the NFC. We're playing a Super Bowl instead of a college football
There
playoff,
you
but
go.
not many people complain about the format of NFL playoffs. So it's interesting. It could be good for college athletics as a whole, but I think just like as a traditionalist, like this kind of hurts my heart, but
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be so interesting to keep watching it like unfold and everything. It's just crazy.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, that's it for us, everybody. Thanks for watching. Huge news in the Big Ten and across the college landscape as well. And don't forget, Penn State picked up yet another big commitment yesterday from 4-star safety King Mack. We didn't even have a time to talk about him today.
Completely overshadowed. Sorry, King Mack.
Yeah, King Mack, like your big day. I think there are still people happy for you, so don't worry about it. But anyway, that's it for us. Thanks for watching. Follow along with us on our coverage at PSU Footblog and at 1-0 Pod on Twitter and online at collegian.psu.edu for all your Big Ten and King Mac needs. Peace.